The sun beats down on a dusty infield. The dirt is baked and cracked. The smell of old leather and fresh-cut grass floats in the air like a promise. A boy spits in the dirt, kicks the rubber, and winds up for the next pitch. Mothers shield their eyes. Fathers grip the chain-link fence, heart pounding harder than their sons. You know, sports have a way of getting into your blood. The sting of a fastball on your palm, the weight of a helmet on your head, the crack of a bat, the shout of a coach you'd follow into battle. They teach you to fight. Sports teach you to fail, to get up again. They teach you that there's glory in the battle, there's honor in the fight, and there's goodness in the training of boys into men. But lurking in the shadow of every trophy and every win, a deeper battle rages. A battle for the heart, for loyalty, for worship. Will we raise sons who fight for the right king? Or will we train them to bow before idols? Will our families build strength for Christ's kingdom, or will they bleed their strength away chasing fading crowns? Today, we're talking about sports, family, and raising sons and daughters for Christ's kingdom. You don't want to miss this conversation with Pastor Jake Mentzel. So join me as we build, fight, protect, and lead. This is the Patriarchy.
Rise up, for men of God have done with lesser.
Rise up, for men of God have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind, soul and strength that serve the King of Kings. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where His feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God.
Everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. That was 1 Corinthians 9:25. I am Pastor Joseph Spurgeon, and you're listening to the Patriarchy Podcast, the ministry of Sovereign King Church. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches nearly every Christian family that I know, which is sports. On one hand, modern evangelicalism probably treats sports like an idol. Sunday mornings are sacrificed on the altar of Little League games, and families exhaust themselves running all over creation, chasing after worldly trophies. And the Lord's Day seems to be profaned by endless entertainment. My dad's church is half empty when there's a baseball game. On the other hand, in reaction to this idolatry, some in our reform circles have fallen into the opposite ditch. They treat all sports with suspicion, as if athletic pursuits are inherently sinful, an unnecessary distraction from the life of the mind and the life of the faith. And so what we want to do today is we're going to walk the truth. We're going to help families see the good, the bad, the ugly of sports, and work on how we raise our sons to be disciplined, courageous, self-controlled, and faithful without allowing the gods of this age to swallow up our households. So joining me today is Pastor Jake Mentzel, a dear friend, a faithful brother, a pastor, a father of 8, and I believe a Little League coach.
Yeah, I coach a travel team.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, you're really in.
I'm in. I'm all in.
Together, we're going to chart a course for Christian families who want to engage in sports while keeping Christ at the center of their homes. So welcome to the podcast, brother.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
Before we jump in, I want to set a stage. Again, I said sports are a huge part of American life.
Yeah.
For a lot of families, they become almost second religion. So we want to hit this topic head on. And I thought, well, what better way to kick things off than with a little deep theology? You got to go deep here, okay? So, Pastor Jake, here's my deep theological observation. Foosball is the devil.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. Foosball is the devil.
Here's the real question. Are sports the devil?
Here's the real answer. No, duh, of course not. Sports are not the devil.
Okay. So, well, let's get some biographical background for you. Okay, so you are a coach now, but did you grow up playing sports?
Yeah, so my family is a sports family. I grew up in a sports family. So did my wife. For my family, it started with my dad and my grandpa. So my grandpa grew up in the Great Depression. He was a city cop and he worked 2-3 jobs. So my grandma could stay home with the kids. And about the time my dad hit middle school, my grandma, my dad's the youngest. My grandma said, hey, and my dad's the only boy. So she looked at my grandpa and said, hey, Mike needs more of his dad around. I'm going to go to work and during the day and get a job. And I want you to, take the evenings off and be home because he needs you. And so my grandpa did that and he became my dad's Little League coach. And he didn't really know much about baseball, but he knew his son needed him. And so he just threw himself in and did the best that he could. And that's where they bonded. They bonded over baseball. My dad got really good, starting center fielder through high school. Had opportunity, I think, to play some college ball. Didn't choose to go that route. But that sort of became like the heart of his relationship with his dad. And then, so for me growing up, I'm the oldest. That's where we got started. And then my parents got divorced. And long story short, my dad ended up with custody, but where he knew to succeed as a father was on the ball field. So our life was sports growing up. It was baseball, basketball, and he was always my coach. And so I got to high school. I was pretty good. I wasn't great. I was pretty good. But then I became a believer and I had felt my own idolatry in sports. I quit my senior year, varsity senior season. We were a good team. We had gone to state a couple years before. We had a really strong class, some guys going D1, and I just quit and broke my dad's heart. But then I started having kids of my own and I just started to sort of work through my own issues with it. For me, a lot of baseball growing up, it was something of a religion. It was a defining reality of my life. And, but it's also where I learned how to be a man. It was also where I developed my relationship with my dad. And it's where I knew how to be the best dad I could be. And so started to reclaim that with my kids. And it's been so sweet what God has done with me and my boys especially, but my girls too. Yeah, my girls play sports and I make no apology for it. And so right now, the team that I'm helping coach, I get to coach with my dad. And that wasn't even my own design. So I lived in Bloomington for 18 years. My dad continued to coach my brothers. He's a really good coach. And he got involved in Evansville North High School baseball. And so now one of my boys plays for an organization, a very well-known organization. And my dad's just well-known around the city. Like I can't go to a ball field, with Mentzel on the back of one of my kids and somebody asking me about my dad. And so he got asked to help coach this team by people within the organization. It wasn't me putting him forward. And so it's been really, really sweet to share the ball field. And, last time he coached me was 27 years ago. And we won that last tournament. And we got to pick up right where we left off. We went undefeated in our first tournament and won it. And so it's just been really, really sweet. So that's sort of like the biographical big picture of me and my family. My wife actually had a similar journey with her dad in sports growing up. So we're a sports family. For us, it is central to how we shape and form the character of our kids. And we love it. We wouldn't have it any other way. And yeah, the idolatry is real. Baseball is, a lot of people worship it as Bull Durham starts, the Church of Baseball. Mm-hmm. But it's also just a great tool for shaping and forming character. And that's how we use it. We use it as a tool with our kids. So that's the background. That's where we're coming from.
Good. So I had a similar journey with another idol. For me was music, and I can remember having to just like destroy music stuff for a while, and then it's painful. But then God has this just amazing way of coming back around, and now that you were willing to set this thing aside, now you can use it in the right way. So. Yeah,
it's just beautiful and sweet the way that God redeems things that are broken, restores the hearts of fathers to their sons and sons to fathers. And and when I quit, it was like cold turkey. Like I didn't even watch sports for a while. It was dead to me. It had to be dead to me. And then that's how I hit everything when I became a believer. Like I just hit everything, cut off friendships, cut off relationships. Cause I was like, it was baseball, it was partying, it was all this stuff and girls, and it's all had to die and be rebuilt. And, I didn't really have anybody to sort of disciple or shepherd me through that for a while. So it was just like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I got to follow Jesus and I have to kill a sin. So it's all got to go, because to me, I can't separate the good from the bad yet. So yeah, but to have that given back to me in this season, to be able to coach with my dad who's walking with the Lord, and it's just a great coach, great with the kids, great with my son. It's just super sweet.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I grew up playing some sports as well. I grew up playing baseball, played that all the way up through start of high school. And then I played football, and something I always wanted to do, didn't get a chance to do, was do martial arts. So my sons right now,
They do jujitsu?
They do jujitsu.
Yeah.
I love it. My son just did his first tournament and came in second place, going against kids that were like 2 belts ahead of him. So
yeah, that's great.
It's pretty fun to watch and to be a part of.
Well, you look built for that type of sport, man. Like wrestling and jiu-jitsu looks like, I mean, you're a strong dude. So
yeah. Well, let's get into the good of it. So, they say heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
That's right.
So
I have a feeling we're going to be dropping all the references today.
I've got them all, man. I've got them all ready.
You got it teed up.
You'll be saying you're killing me, Smalls. That's what you'll say. Yep.
That's right.
Sports clearly can teach something lasting. So what are some of the genuinely good lessons or virtues that you're like, this is why you need to have some kind of sports?
Yeah. So for, baseball is my sport. It was baseball, basketball, football, but baseball, basketball, and then baseball above all other things. Baseball is a sport of failure. It's a sport of failure, and it's a sport of adversity. If you fail 70, the hardest thing to do in sports, and I know people will argue with me on this, but I think it's widely accepted. The hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a baseball. Round bat, round ball, don't have the time to react. Got to have intuition. And you fail 70% of the time, and that's Hall of Fame numbers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what that means from the youngest ages is you have to learn to deal with adversity. You have to learn to deal with failure. You have to embrace it. You have to learn to be free to fail so that you can grow. And that right there is sort of and you have to learn to set your emotions aside, get back up on your feet and make the next play. And if you don't, it's selfish, because you have, 8, 9, 10 other guys out there that are depending on you to make the next play. And so that right there is so crucial to being a man, right? You have to own your mistakes. You have to own your failures, and then you have to deal with them. You have to overcome them. You have to set your emotions aside, and then you have to get up and go and make the next play and make the next play and make the next play. And so that right there, understanding you're part of a team, understanding that life is full of adversity, it's full of failure. You can whine, you can complain, you can blame the umpire, you can blame the bounce of the ball, you can blame your glove, you can blame your bat, you can blame all these other things.
I've done all that.
Right. And we all do, and we all have, and we all have to go through it, right? Or you can just accept that, sometimes things happen. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes you get a bad hop. Sometimes you hit an absolute missile right at a kid and you're out, right? You did your job. You did the best you could. And, the other guy made a play. And so what are you going to do now? You're going to whine, you're going to complain, or you're going to figure out how to get better, right? And that's a lot of life. A lot of life is failure. And then the decision, am I going to get bitter? Am I going to complain? Am I going to whine? Am I going to find somebody to blame? Or am I just going to suck it up and figure out, okay, how do I turn this into a way to grow, a way to get better, a way to improve, a way to discipline my emotions, submit them to God, and say, okay, that's how it goes. And all I can do is the best with what's right in front of me now. And so, that's at the heart. Actions have consequences. The work that you put in, nobody's born being able to catch a baseball and throw a baseball properly. You have to be taught. You have to learn. You have to fail. You're going to get hit. You're going to drop a lot of balls. That stuff's going to happen. You make the jump from coach pitch to kid pitch. You're going to strike out. You're going to stand in with a kid throwing a ball hard who's going to hit you, and it's going to hurt. And you're going to want to quit, or you're going to want to get back up and hit it right back at him the next time, right? And all that stuff, it disciplines toughness. One of the things I tell 2 of my boys are catchers, and the job of a catcher is to take pain for the team, right? You block balls, you take foul tips off the arm, off the forearm, in the gut, off the face mask. And it's like your job's to absorb pain right? And you can feel it later, but you got a job to do now. And all that stuff's just great. It's great to work through with your boys. And
how do you do that? How do you, because I mean, as you're saying that, I could just think about all those lessons learning, but I didn't have somebody actually
teaching you and helping you connect the dots and connect it to all of life, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it is just like, you need to have a lot of conversation. So there are two types of coaches that you'll find out on the field. They're all dads. And there are little men who are out there trying to prove themselves to their daddy still and work through their daddy issues. And there are dads that are out there building their boys, building their teams, and teaching kids how to face adversity and face life. I am so blessed to coach on a team right now with 3 other Christian men. Head coach is a Southern Baptist deacon. Assistant coach is a former missionary. And then there's my dad, and then there's me. And, you know, one of the things that we do constantly is we make the kids feel, we love you. We are proud of you. You're here for a reason. We believe in you. Failure is a part of the game. Failure is a part of life. And the test of your character is not whether or not you fail, but how you respond to failure, right? And then we connect it. We talk about Jesus. We pray with them before games. Sometimes umpires will come and pray with us. And we actually do. We spend time connecting it to life in our team huddles after a game. Like, this is not about baseball. This is about being young men and the kind of young men that you'll be. So we expect you to look us in the eye. We expect you to say, yes, coach. We expect you to ask questions. We expect you to ask how to get better. We expect you to go do work on your own. We expect you to not throw a fit at this point, at 12 years old when you strike out, right? I have another kid who's 8. He plays at the highest level you can play at 8. Since he was 6, he's played on the best team in the state of Indiana. And so at 8 years old, you're right on the cusp of moving into kid pitch. And at his level, at AAA, there are only a couple other teams in the state at that level. So they either have to travel around to find competition, or they have to play up. And so their coaches are working with them on, you know, they're doing some live at bats. They're throwing to each other. They're getting hit, and they're striking each other out. And these kids aren't used to striking out. They're not used to failing. That transition's super hard emotionally for kids that haven't experienced a lot of failure yet. That's the beauty of it. And so you're going to have tears. You're going to have kids frustrated. You're going to have kids crying. And as a coach and as a father, what you love those moments. Those are the teachable moments, right? What you don't want is for a team to never face adversity and to never face failure. You want those moments where they're at their wits' end, where they're crying, where they're frustrated, where they have to face the fact that life is full of failure. And so is the game of baseball. And baseball is just a great microcosm of life for that reason. And so it's like, yeah, buddy, you know, you're going to strike out. Let's look at some MLB stats here. Let's get the cat out of the frame. You know, striking out's just part of the game. Did you give your best effort, and did you have a great attitude about it? That's all we care about. Attitude and effort. Those are the two things that you can control in the game and in life, your attitude and your effort. Everything else is just like, there's so much out of your control. And so, yeah, the kid that cries, that breaks down, you know, he wants to succeed. He wants to win. That's a great place to be. But then learning to accept that, hey, I did my best, I did my job, and now I've got the next job to do. That's what you're always talking to these kids about, and trying to build them up and just making them feel free, right? To go out, give their best, swing out of their shoes. If they strike out, it's okay. It's going to happen, right? Go dive, make the baseball play, come up firing and throw the ball out into left field, right? We'll figure it out. Like, that's okay.
Plus, there's no crying in baseball.
There's no crying in baseball. No, the reality is, 8, 9, 10, there's going to be crying in baseball. And some of those tears are okay, because not all tears are evil, as I think a great coach once said. But you have to get past that point where it's like, no. At 12, if we see you crying, we got a place for you on the bench, right? You got to learn to control your emotions, because you can't bring the team down. Now, on the flip side of that, you do have coaches, and you have to watch out for these guys, and you can't let your kids play for these guys that live in kids' heads, that make them afraid to fail, afraid to take risks, afraid to go out and play, because they're going to jump on you when you fail. It's like, nobody's out there trying to make an error. Nobody's out there trying to strike out. Yelling at this kid for failing. Yeah, you need to hold them accountable sometimes, like if they're being lazy and not giving their best effort. Sure, we need to discipline that. But on the flip side, living in kids' heads, that's the kind of coach. It's like, it's about them. These kids are not individual young men who are growing into future men. These are extensions of themselves. And every failure is a reflection on coach, right? So he can't tolerate it because he's got to prove to his dad something still. Those are the coaches you have to watch out for.
Boys are wild. They climb trees, wrestle their brothers, and somehow manage to turn every stick into a sword. And what does the world say? Calm down, sit still, be more like the girls. Listen, boys aren't broken girls. They don't need a timeout. They need a mission. They need to know that God made them to build, fight, protect, and lead. That's why I wrote It's Good to Be a Boy, a book to teach your sons that masculinity isn't toxic. It's how God designed them. Dads, read this with your sons before the world tells them a different story. So get your copy on Amazon or any other online retailers today. It's good to be a boy.
Oh, I see what's going on in here. So sorry to interrupt. Proceed.
Yeah, even when I was in sport, even when I go to sporting events, it's still dads that not even coaches that sit on the sideline, or moms. They live vicariously through their children.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, what we'll do on our team is we'll go talk to those parents, right? We'll say, hey, when they're on the ball field, we can't control what happens at home, right? And you do have kids that have very rough home lives, and you can tell that, right? The kids that are head cases, the kids that tend to break down, get down on themselves and let their failures and errors compound. They've got a rough home life. That their dad's putting a lot of pressure on them. You can't control what happens when they get in the car. You can control what happens between the lines, and you absolutely can go and say, hey, when they're on the ball field, they're ours. And you can say to those kids, listen, I know you got a lot of pressure, but it's not coming from us. And when you're on the ball field, you listen to us. We got your back. We're behind you. We love you. We're proud of you. We're for you. We believe in you, or we would not have picked you to be on this team. And it's a great opportunity to show the fatherhood of God to kids that maybe don't have opportunities to see it in other places.
Are you able to talk about the faith in this as you're doing this?
All the time. All the time. Last summer, one of my boys' coaches called me, and it was a highly successful team, but the pressure had been mounting. And they had started to spiral. And a lot of teams will do this toward the end of a season, where you have experienced a lot of success. And so you have the expectation of continued success. And the coaches feel it and the kids feel it. And things start to go wrong. Things can spiral really quickly. The kids will blame each other. The kids will fight. The kids will complain. They'll break down. So one of the coaches called me and said, man, what's going on? Can you help me? And we had a long conversation. It was like the weekend before Father's Day. And we had this long conversation. I was standing outside of Barnes & Noble on the phone. And I said, look, before Jesus, God the Father said to God the Son publicly, loudly, with a voice from heaven, this is my beloved Son with whom I am well pleased. And he did that before Jesus had entered into his ministry, before he had healed anybody, before he had performed a miracle, before he had preached a sermon. And a lot of theologians will look at that and will say, well, this is the declaration at the outset of who Jesus is to the people. That's true. It is also 100% the strength God the Father gave God the Son to go to battle, to go to war. I love you. I am proud of you. I am pleased with you. And then what happens immediately? Jesus goes into the wilderness to do battle with Satan. That's the strength Jesus went into the wilderness with, was the love and pleasure of his Father. before he had done anything, right? Jesus' ministry comes from the approval of the Father, not for the approval of the Father. And I said, you have to treat these boys the same way. You have to let them know you love them and you are proud of them, whether or not they fail, whether or not they screw up. And so I said, if it were me, this is what I would do. I'd go to the next practice. I'd have everybody line up. I'd hit them ground balls, and I would tell them to flub it on purpose. Just screw it up, every single one of them. And then I would tell them, man, you got this. I'm proud of you. You got the next one. And I would encourage the whole team to talk that way. And we're just going to discipline ourselves. Errors and failures happen. It doesn't change anything. Don't care if you win another game. Don't care if you make another play, right? I love you. I believe in you. I'm proud of you. Fail, 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 fail. This is not about whether or not you fail. This is about you giving your best effort and having your best attitude. They went out and they did that. He called the team meeting. He asked me to come in and talk. And I said, no, you're the coach. You're the father of this team. You have to have the conversation. Called the team meeting, talked it all through, went out and did that. Then they had the best practice of their lives. They won 10 straight. They run-rolled their way through the state tournament. They got bumped to AAA. And
Wow.
I think a lot of people just don't trust that you can start that way. But he bought in, he believed it, and changed the culture of that team. And that's the difference between teams that win on Sunday and teams that lose on, in championship games that can't perform under pressure, right? The teams that are just free to be themselves, to go out, give their best effort, to make baseball plays, those are the teams where kids are they're not going to win every game, but they're going to get better. They're going to grow. They're going to find success. They're going to have confidence to go out and play from behind. They're not going to get down and say, oh no, we failed. Oh, we're behind. Oh, we're losing. Oh, it's going to go to pieces. And so to get back to the point, that changed my whole Father's Day sermon. And I preached that sermon on, this is my beloved son with whom I'm well pleased. Talking about how love comes first with God. And the freedom to live the Christian life comes from our adoption and justification. Right? We're free from the guilt of sin, so we're now free to not be slaves to it. And that's our strength as Christians, is the love of the Father for us. And I sent it to the coach, and he sent it to the whole team. And all the parents on that team listened to that sermon. And we've had conversations about it. And it's changed how some of the parents talk to their kids. And I've had some families visit church, and it's just really, really sweet, the opportunities that you have for that sort of thing. And then many other conversations too. I've sat in hotel lobbies and talked about abortion, sexuality, men and women, all kinds of stuff. It's really sweet too, because what you have in these contexts, you have people from all walks of life, but part of the reason they're there is because they're invested in their kids, right? They want to be good dads. They want to be good moms. They want their kids to succeed and thrive. They're not checked out. If they were, they'd be somewhere else. And yeah, a lot of sports culture is like, we're building a community of like shared child raising, and our worship is sports on Sundays, and we don't need, this is our church, and they would never say it that way, but it's got its liturgy, it's got its rites of passage, it's got its pastors, it's got its all that sort of stuff, and everybody's invested on raising these boys together, and the families hang out, and they,
I noticed when I was at jujitsu, the same kind of thing. And I love these guys. It's not just to bash them, but like when somebody's not there, they talk about like that they're not there the same way that a pastor talks about when somebody's not at church.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's like, no, you got to be bought in. You got to be sold out. You got to be committed, man. Like what kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you have to have like, and there are teams that are like, and they'll talk like in baseball culture, everybody, whether they're Christian or not, will have some basic like God, family, then baseball speech, that they get most, but really, when the rubber meets the road and God takes the place of baseball, you're going to get punished for it. Family takes the place of baseball, you're going to get punished for it. Unless family means baseball and your God is baseball. And then it all harmonizes for them, right? That absolutely is a lot of the culture that you're dealing with or fighting against that pill. But it's not everywhere, and it's not everybody, and it's not every team. But that's why you have to be careful.
So how let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm ready to go join a baseball team myself. And so we've talked about what are some of the biggest spiritual dangers you would see with sports then, other than what we've just said? What are some others?
Well, it is very easy to replace the church community with your sports community, for one. And it's very easy for somebody like me. My dominant culture growing up is baseball culture, right? I was adopted into the family of God and church culture. It's not my blood. It's my adoption. Baseball's my blood. And so I feel that pull. I feel that pull constantly. Sometimes it's very easy and tempting to feel more connection with some of these guys that, baseball's their life, their God, their idol, and they're godless people, than with somebody in my church who, they're not a sports family at all. They're a board game family or something like that. I'm coming from two different places. That's a place where I have to discipline my own heart and just be like, no, it is Jesus. It is all Jesus. It has to be Jesus. And my church community and my church family has to be my first family, and my kids' first family. They need to see that. They need to feel that, and they need to feel that that's the priority. So there's that. There's absolutely that.
How do you navigate that, Jake? Because again,
Poorly.
Maybe, yeah. But help us out, man, because sometimes it's like I get the pull from the kind of the crusty reform that will have nothing to do with that. That's just a distraction. There's no good, right?
Well, some of those people don't even understand. They project. They end up projecting their own ambitions onto sports families. Right. So, it's the life of the mind, and it's education, and it's college. And so you must be like thinking that you're going to pour a bunch of money in and get a college scholarship. How stupid is that? Only such percentage of this and that. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. For some families it is, but really it's about helping kids become better young men and women. And you just have to always, at least for me and how I talk to people about it, it's a tool. Right? It's a tool in the tool bag. And every family has their tools, and tools that you said music, right? Like music's a great tool for teaching discipline and persistence and, responding to fit. Like it gets really frustrating. You're playing the piano or something and you can't get, your fingers to do right, and the only thing you can do is like go back and keep working on it. Sometimes you need to take a break, rest, reset, come back tomorrow. Every family has their tools, and then you have to take advantage of the tools that you have, but you have to see it as a tool. And so sports are a tool. They're not a tool for everybody to use, but they're a great tool if you know how to use them well. But they have to be that. And that community can be a great opportunity to show the fatherhood of God to other people and to be a witness for Christ. And it can also turn very quickly into an alternative community or to idolatry. And it really is one of those things. It's like, it's hard to really lay down rules because different teams have different cultures and different families have different cultures, and you have to just navigate it with wisdom and faith. You're going to fail as you do that. You're going to have to pull back. So I talk to my kids all the time, like, especially the ones who are on the teams that are the most demanding, and I make it really clear, and they're bought into this too. The minute this team or baseball or soccer or whatever, my girls are soccer players, it takes the place of Jesus or takes the place of the church, it's done. It's over. It just has to be over. Baseball's fun. It's meant to be fun. It's a great place for us to bond. It's a great place for us to grow together and to enjoy each other as a family. It's a great tool, and it's a terrible master. And you just have to always be checking yourself on that. And your ego is always going to get in the way. Your ambitions are always going to get in the way. They're always going to be there. And the same will be true for your kids. You have to discipline yourself first as a father, as a mother, and then you have to teach your kids to discipline themselves too, and to take a step back, and to be willing to take a step back. And so there's one of my kids and one of the teams that he's on, we're talking about taking a step back from potentially over the next year because of the demands. And that'll suck. Those are friendships that go back for years. It's a lot of fun to win. It's a lot of fun to succeed. It's a lot of fun to travel and be in hotels with your friends. But the minute it starts to displace the church is the minute it has to die.
So how do you, Jake, then, because the big elephant in the room then here is what? Sundays.
So sports on Sundays, right? Yeah. You're going to miss church. You're going to miss church to play.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
When I got started, I had a good conversation with a buddy of mine. His name's Matt McIntosh. He's a pastor out in Oklahoma. He was here in Evansville for a while, great athlete himself. His boys, fantastic athletes. One of his boys, I think, holds the record for triples and stolen bases in the state of Oklahoma now. And he said to me, look, if they're good enough, it's okay for them to sit out a game or so on Sunday. So we tell the coaches, if it's baseball or church, it's going to be church. And you have to be okay with that, with us coming in on this. You just need to know. You need to know that that's where we're at and that's where we're coming from. And so, and you have to be able to draw your lines. And I'm not a strict Sabbatarian. I don't mind playing 3 or 4 games on a Sunday afternoon, but this past Sunday I preached and my son was there and then we ran to a ball game. And so that's how we do it. And do I always feel good about it? No, I don't always feel good about it. But it's sort of the balancing act of our lives. And, it just takes faith and wisdom and repentance too. I think there have been times where we've crossed lines and we've had to talk about it. And I've had to apologize and I've had to say, hey, what'll happen is you'll go to a tournament on a weekend and you'll think you'll go to a church service somewhere or something like that. And then, you got the time wrong and you screwed it up. And now you're not going to church and you're just playing baseball that day. And it's like, okay, well, we'll listen to the sermon from home in the car on the way home. And we blew it. Failure. Real failure. I've been guilty. I've been very guilty of that sort of thing at various points. But it's also been part of trying to figure things out myself as a dad, trying to deal with my own past, my own history, my own relationship with my dad, and trying to walk lines. And it's not easy. It's not easy. But, Matt said to me when I was just getting started with my oldest, he said, you can trust God. You can hold the line and God will be faithful. Your kids won't lack for opportunities. And they'll grow. And his kids did. And I think 3 of them were offered college scholarships. One of them took one and then dropped baseball. The one I was actually telling you about, triples and stolen bases. He met a girl and decided, hey, we're getting married. I'm a sophomore in college. We're getting married and I'm pursuing medicine. And so I don't have time for baseball anymore. And I talked to him about that. And he's like, on the one hand, did it break my heart? Yeah. On the other hand, I couldn't have been more proud of him. He made the decisions that we talked about making from the beginning. So there's that part of me that's like, and there's the other part of me that's like, you shouldn't be, like, no, this is it. This is it. This is it. You won. You did the right thing. Like, he's winning. He's doing the right thing. He's honoring God and building a family, but you still feel all that stuff. So
he's choosing he's choosing his pitches, right? So that's what you do.
That's right.
You go up the bat, right? You go up the bat. You choose what you're going to, and that's kind of what all of this is you have to use wisdom. You want to obey God's commands and laws.
Yes.
You got to choose where you're going to, where, and that might be different for each family a little bit.
Yes.
For us, for example, for jujitsu, my sons they do not fight girls. They don't roll with girls.
Yes. 100%.
And that cost my son
it's going to cost
in the tournament. It didn't actually cost him a place this time.
But it cost them a match.
Yeah. And
then you talk to them and you just say, hey, we honor God. We honor women. We're not rolling with girls. Right.
Exactly.
And that's just the way it is. And we make our sacrifices, if it's even a sacrifice, and we trust God to honor it. And we're not worried about it. Percent.
Yeah, he's totally bought in. I mean, he told the ref, he says, I have nothing to win here. He says, If I win, what did I win? And if I lose, I really lost. That's right.
Yeah, it's 100% a no-win situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but there's lots of that going on. Maintaining priorities is very difficult because not only do you have Sundays to deal with, you also have the rest of the week. I mean, sports even jiu-jitsu can take up every day of your week.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they do, I have 7 of my 8 kids are aged 8 to 17.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And so we've got varsity baseball. All of them are playing. Well, not all of them. One of them stepped away from baseball, my 13-year-old. And he's one of those kids who was like, he's talented. He was asked this past year to try out for a couple different travel teams. He's like, yeah, no, not for me. Not for me. I like basketball just fine. I want to keep playing basketball, and I actually want to focus on music. And, you have to have space for that too. Even if, if your family culture is music or if your family, whatever your family culture is, you have to have space for kids to differentiate and be different and let them know, I love you. I'm proud of you, whether you you can throw or hit a ball or not. It doesn't matter. One day it's all going to be gone anyway. What'll be left is the kind of man you are. And so you have to make space for all of that. And yeah, it is demanding. We do basically spring into early summer, most every night of the week is taken up with sports for us. And we get to the end of each year and we have to ask, do we want to do this again? What ways are we going to pull back? What ways do we need to pull back? And we have made those types of decisions too, where it's like, we've pulled the kid off this team or that team because it's too demanding. Or we know that these two or three teams are going to have their practice schedules line up and their tournament schedules line up. And then it's going to make everything much simpler. If you have 3 kids practicing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then suddenly you've got your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's not so bad, right? So a lot of it's just like, season by season, team by team. Sometimes you make a mistake. One time we joined a team that promised to be very low key and, we're just going to be focused on development. We're going to be low key. We're not going to travel a lot. We're going to do maybe 8 tournaments, right? And they're all going to be local. That's the promise. We sign up, you sign a commitment form, you pay your money. And the next thing you know, they're 7 years old and they're out in January on a ball field practicing. And it's like, and then, we signed up for 12 tournaments and 10 of them are out of town. And it's like, okay, this isn't what we signed up for. Are we going to pull him off the team this year and he's going to go a year without a team? Or are we going to tough this out and make a hard call at the end of the year? And those are always decisions that you make too. Like that team was terrible to play for. And it was we made the mistake of saying, well, we signed up, we committed, we'll tough this out. And we knew by the end of the season we should have just quit and walked away and let them have our money. And so it's like, okay, well, you live in, and then we did our best to not make the same mistake. So it's just all that sort of stuff.
Well, I feel like this has been a pretty good, fun conversation here. Any
You go the way you expected?
Yeah, dude. I didn't get to get all my quotes in, but
There are too many. There are too many.
Too many. But any final thoughts? Anything? Here, I'll throw you this. I'll throw you up this softball. Okay, you're making a huge deal of this. Like, don't you know that bodily exercise is of little profit?
It's of some profit. And that
okay.
profit is real. That profit is real. And especially when it comes to boys, you want them to be, but your girls too. And I say this especially to a lot of the families that want to pivot into thinking, I wish we could go back to sort of family farm living. Well, if you live in the suburbs, you don't have opportunities for your girls to be out milking the cows and, or whatever, baling hay. My half of my family is farm family, and we'd go out. My parents live on 40 acres, inherited, 200-year farm family. My stepmom grew up baling hay and doing all the things. We live in a 2,100 square foot house on like an eighth of an acre in the suburbs. There's not much space for my girls to have, physical activity and physical discipline and stuff like that. And so soccer is great for them. Bodily exercise is of some profit, and especially when you connect it to their souls, to what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be made in the image of God in a physical world, because we're not just disembodied brains. That's where the profit comes. And then you connect the dots and you teach them how to think about it all in a biblical way. There's a reason the Apostle Paul uses the imagery of soldiers and boxers and athletes, right? And so giving your kids some of those handles is only going to...
Sure. Yep. Well, again, Pastor Jake, appreciate you coming on. It was a fun conversation. I had a good time.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
If real quick, somebody wanted to get a hold of you, or they just wanted to follow you on social media and all that stuff, what do we do?
You can follow my dormant Twitter account or X account at Jacob Mentzel or at Jacob Mentzel. Shoot me an email, jacobmentzel@gmail.com. It's just fine. And if you want my phone number, it's not hard to find. So there you go.
All right. God bless you again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, God bless you.
Brothers, sports are not necessarily the enemy. They can be a proving ground, a training ground, a great blessing when rightly used. Now, they're a terrible idol when abused. So today, we've seen that ball fields, gyms, the arenas of this world are not neutral. but they can be a great tool. They can forge courage, discipline, self-control, and brotherhood in our sons. Or they can steal away their hearts, teaching them to bow before perishable crowns and fleeting applause. We talked about the danger of treating sports like a second religion, where Sunday is no longer the Lord's Day, but just another game day. We can't be casual about that. Now, the Sabbath was made for man. It's a gift. It's not a burden, but it is a command. Our Lord commands us to set apart that first day of the week, the Lord's Day, for worship, rest, and the work of delighting in Him. Your children need to know that Christ is worth setting aside every other love, even a love as good as sports. They need to see that the gathering of God's people is not optional, not negotiable, and not something we squeeze in when the schedule allows. It's first. It's foundational. And it is because it's such a great joy. But at the same time, every family is different. Some families are going to be sold out on sports. But not every boy will swing a bat. And your family may never live on the ball field. That's good and fine. But every Christian father must have that same fire that you heard today in Pastor Jake Mentzel. A fire to weave together all the threads of life. Sports, school, work, play, everything is to be weaved together into loyalty to Christ. Everything we do is an opportunity to teach our children about the Lord. So whether your son is on the mound or behind a book, whether your daughter is scoring goals or simply making music and making bread at home, your calling as a father is the same. You want to train them to follow after the Lord. Train your sons to fight the right battles. Teach them to win with humility and to lose with honor. Teach them that they can fail and you still love them and you still are proud of them. Teach them by your very example that Jesus Christ is King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and He is worthy of all. So, I call you to this action. Take a hard look at your household. Do the rhythms of your week tell your children that Christ reigns? Does your calendar teach them that worship comes first? Do you steward the passions of your children, or have you let them run unchecked? Are you afraid of good things? Have you made yourself a little legalist that keeps your family from making use of all kinds of different tools? Right? Don't be like me where you grew up in sports, you loved it, and then became really skeptical and would be tempted to withhold it. That's not good. Make use of good things for your children. And so repent when you need to repent. Rebuild what needs rebuilding. Remember that every practice, every game, every family dinner, every Lord's Day is a brick laid in the walls of a kingdom that will not fall. And so if you like this episode, please share it. Please subscribe to us on all the different places, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. And then share it with a friend. Just help get the word out. And then after that, you know what my call to you always is. It's build, fight, protect, and lead. This is the patriarchy. Now, before we're done, let me just say a prayer for us, okay? Father in heaven, strengthen our hands for the work. Make us men who build our households upon the sure rock of your kingdom. Lord, help us to be faithful, that when we fail, to know that you love us. Holy Scripture says, we love you because you first loved us. Thank you for your love. I pray this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.